Check it out. Welcome back, all of our guests. We are here for a very special podcast edition, daytime edition. So we have the mimosas rolling here on this Tuesday midday for lunch.
Cheers.
We'd like to welcome our guest for today, Yuki Cohen on the air.
Yes,
welcome,
hi.
Yuki.
Thank you. Hi. Thanks for having me here. I'm very excited.
Good. We're thrilled, and clearly we teamed up on the daytime vibes. So we're totally just letting the skin roll out.
Yeah, I just got back from my workout, so just maintain your distance. Good thing we're socially distant.
Something along those lines. So yeah, welcome to Bunch Podcast. And we wanted to get a little bit we're branching out. We've done a lot of South County stuff, and we're excited to have you here from the North County, yes. Which many of us get to and some of us don't, and want to certainly be bridging that gap.
Yeah.
So please do us a little favor for our listeners that are not familiar with you and your business, and what you've been up to, and let us know who you are, where you came from, and what it is that you're working on these days.
Sounds great. So thank you so much first for having me here from Pittsfield. I'm Yuki Cohen. I own Methuselah Bar and Lounge. We specialize in craft cocktails, craft beers, and we have a lot of organic tapas. And we have we're known for our tacos. I threw in a little bit of my Korean food in there. So we have tasty bites that we try to make it as delicious and as organic as possible. And I think my background is not in the restaurant industry. I started out in finance in New York City, so I was managing money for a lot of wealthy trust fund people, and decided that I was done with the rat race after doing that for over 20 years, and moved from the city to the Berkshires with my now ex-husband, and I realized that, oh my God, I'm a country girl. I love the country, the mountains, and the Berkshires is definitely one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. And Rafa knows also that my original background, I'm Korean. As you can tell, I'm Asian. And for the listeners out there, if you're not watching the podcast. And I also spent a little time in Brazil, so it was great to meet Rafa. He also speaks Portuguese, so that's been a lot of fun. And I've been here in the United States, and I am a very proud American, because I could have been either in Korea or in Brazil, and my life would have been completely different. So I am very proud and very grateful, and feel very fortunate to be in America, where I was in finance, and now I'm in the country. Decided to throw caution to the wind and try opening up a bar, lounge, restaurant where I could gather with some of my best friends just to, and I fell in love with Pittsfield. When I was separated from my now ex-husband, I moved to Pittsfield and met some really incredible people. One of my best friends, Rachel Plain, she owns Berkshire Yoga Dance and Fitness, and we would dance every Tuesday and then go out to eat. So we would solve the world's problems that way. And then every week, and it took 3 years, I think, for me to get divorced. And then that experience, I decided I would love to add something to Pittsfield. The people are great, the landscape is nice. It felt like Brooklyn when it was up and coming. So I wanted to add something to the landscape. So I opened up Methuselah Bar and Lounge to have a venue where people could leave their problems, kind of like what Rachel and I did. We left our problems and we just kind of connected and talked about life and kind of healed my heart in the process.
But no history of being in hospitality before that?
So the only time I did help my ex-husband we opened Moe's Tavern. So we did that, but that was his baby. I did end up bartending for a little bit because I was, after having 2 kids, I needed to get out of the house a little bit. So I'm let me try bartending. So, and I ended up when I was in finance, I was in personal asset management. So I talked to a lot of people, and I really loved that part of connecting with humans. So, and then in the bar scenario, I thought it was even better because you have a couple of drinks, your inhibitions come down a little bit. And I had some really great conversations with the customers, and I really love that aspect of it. And then the relaxing, I'm very social, so I love that scenario. So I wanted to recreate that in my own vision. So I built the bar,
That's
my bar.
That's amazing how like things come. Some people are like put on this path and they truly feel like, okay, this is the next step that I have to take, is open my own place. And others do it for totally different reasons, such as you, of like, I wanted to create a space to foster stimulating conversations, meeting new people, and for others to get to enjoy the things that I enjoy doing, such as lounging out, snacking, drinking, and in a space that feels conducive to all that. So
Right. And your space is beautiful. I love going there.
but that's such a great, I think Rafa and I often talk about this community being a community of creators.
Yes.
And I think you're a great example of
Well, I think
how we can go ahead and convert something from an idea or a thought or a desire and say, well, we can do that ourselves.
Right, and I don't know how your experience was, but I didn't have a whole lot of experience building my own space. So I was frightened to death. But then I thought, one step at a time. I think I was listening to a bunch of podcasts back then, and one of them, I think it was Martin Luther King. He said, you don't have to see the whole staircase, you just have to see the first step, and you just go one step at a time. And I did that, and it was, and I know earlier we talked a little bit about the law of attraction and manifesting and things. I will say, the experience of building the bar was so amazing in that I had a vision and I just kept focusing on the feeling that I wanted, the vision that I wanted to create, but I really had no idea what I was doing. But then the people, like synchronistically, they all came to me. Like my friend Caitlin came to help me with the cocktail program. My friend Lena helped me with the kitchen. And then you just kind of came together one step at a time. Just people that I needed, they showed up when they had to, and then voila, here's Methuselah.
Quick shout out to Caitlin Harrison for being just one of the
Where
most
are you,
amazing
Caitlin?
people. Come on out, let's get you on the podcast, Caitlin.
Yeah, it's Caitlin. Come on back.
Go,
We miss
come
you.
home. It's definitely my favorite part of the whole process is that unknown, and
Yes.
and your vision comes and it's oftentimes not complete, and there are so many gaps in it, and if you were able to draw it out, it started as a stick figure thing, and then eventually you would add a little bit of color in, and then eventually some 3D aspects, and it continues to unfold. And I have this 360 photo app that I use like sometimes when I'm somewhere cool, where you just kind of stitch together and you have to keep going. It shows you the gaps of where you haven't claimed that photo yet. And I've always thought that's what opening a restaurant is like, where you're looking around and you're starting to realize, okay, what's missing? What's the next thing that needs to go here or there? And
Right.
I think that's actually what took me down in Cantina, just because the property was so vast that
And beautiful, yes.
there were no limitations. Mooncloud was much easier in some ways because we were restricted. We had a certain
space,
floor print. There was only one place that the bar could go. Shelves had to go behind it. This had to be there, and so it was a lot less to kind of inspire and dream big and go wide with. Whereas at Cantina, I'm constantly, Emily and I are in the garden looking at this little tool shed, and we're like, maybe this should be a seating area. And all of a sudden, now we're ordering chairs, and now we're doing decor in the garden shed, and all these things.
Oh, that's great. Though.
It just keeps going and going.
I love
and
it.
going.
That creative process. I think it's very rewarding to go from your mind to a drawing, possibly even, and then to see it in the real world. Just to bringing that to reality is definitely it's one of the most rewarding experiences ever.
And
definitely.
my favorite part of is the last one to me, which is having somebody tell you or notice the work that went in.
Yes.
And that's why one of my favorite compliments we ever get is everything was so thoughtful. Because that tells me that they know we didn't just turn the lights on, but it really was a process that we went through. And it worked. It resonated. Like they got it. And
but I think also by you doing that, like when I went there for the first time, and for me it's a hike. It's a 45-minute drive to get there. But I love making the effort to go down there, because you're right. But it feels great. Like you had that the feather lamp. That was fantastic. And like the layout and the structure of your tables, everything was just beautifully made. So it wasn't just thrown together to make a quick profit. It was made with love. And I feel like you can sense that.
Good. Well, if you liked all those things, you'll totally like Emily's store. So you should definitely go check it out at Home Love, because she is the visionary in our
she is. And I need help.
Power dynamic.
I was just talking to my trainer and I said, my house, I just feel like my bar is so nice. But when I come home, like I put all my effort into the bar. I need to put more effort into my sanctuary here. So I'm going to go check it out.
Definitely do. So, what's the restaurant been like in the last couple of years?
So I will say that COVID, I don't know how it was for you, but it was painful. It was like I was on the brink of, because I think it was like we're coming out of winter and summer is where we make most of the money. So and then COVID hits right about when we're about to be busy. And for various reasons, we can go into the issues that we have with self-sabotage and all that later. But, maybe I don't pay attention to finance as closely as I should, because thinking like, oh, summer's coming. And then the summer was not happening, and I was caught off guard without a safety net. And I would say I almost went out of business if it wasn't for me begging for help, or I even had to beg to my ex-husband, which was difficult. Josh, thank you though. Appreciate it. And Josh is my ex-husband's name also. But I will say that I'm very grateful to people like Bruce Beckwith, MS Walker. He's like, okay, how can we help you? And where other distributors, when I was behind on my bills, they sent me to court for collection. I know, and it was painful, but he was the one who's like, okay, how can we help you? We have this due, but let's get you product so you can sell and you can pay us back a little bit at a time. So that was really instrumental in us staying open, and me also wanting to keep the bar going, because granted I have other capabilities and that I could have gone back to finance or whatever, but I really wanted the bar, my bar to survive, and wanted to give it a good shot at that.
So like we struggled at Mooncloud in the beginning because just the space is so confined, and I know yours is a smaller space too. We had a lot more, with a full kitchen, everything, a lot more flexibility on what we could do at Cantina, but Mooncloud really was like, our options are super limited right now. Were you able to move outside at all, or did you go through a closed period?
So we had to close for a little bit, and then they allowed us to open with takeout food. So for a little while, we were living on DoorDash, just trying to do whatever we can. So I just had one person working, me packaging everything, and then we had the cocktails to go. So that kind of kept us going. But as you know, DoorDash takes a big chunk. Yeah. So, but that's what we had to do, and then eventually it opened. And then luckily, I will say that we did get help from the government. We got some grants going, but that was a good 6 months. So just to try to, get it going with chewing gum and and tape.
You mentioned DoorDash. Do you still do DoorDash?
So I've taken over the kitchen recently, so I'm the only person cooking now.
Wow.
I know. It's a smallish kitchen. And then I felt that I was cooking here and there, and for whatever reason, parted ways with my cook. And then I just thought I can do this.
As so many of us entrepreneurs say, famous last words, I can do that.
I can do this. And I have been doing it, and then I realized I really enjoy cooking. And then and it's kind of really nice, as you know, to know every aspect of your business. So that was like the one part that I wasn't so, I knew our food was good, but I didn't realize what it entailed to make I didn't realize we made everything, like from the salsa verde to our barbecue sauce to the aioli. We make everything. We don't buy anything pre-made. So, but I have to say, like I was telling Rafa, I am like, it's an amazing place to have a business. I'm sure you agree. The fact that I can get amazing mushrooms from around the corner, and like the amazing greens and arugula, the stuff that I can actually, the purveyors that provide my little business stuff so I can survive. Like I feel very grateful and fortunate that I can do that here.
So because you're in the kitchen now, have you stopped doing DoorDash?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I had to, because I'm like, I can't do takeout.
And is DoorDash a big thing in Pittsfield?
It is. I know, like my daughters, they order quite a bit. Like if I'm not home to cook for them, they actually order a bunch of stuff, and we actually have a pretty good selection. I don't know how it is over here.
I don't know if there's anything. I mean, I read this book, which I kind of keep bringing up throughout. It was called The Next Supper. All about what comes next for restaurants post-COVID.
Nice. Yeah.
And talking about a lot of the issues that are, coming up. And there was a third of the book was all about online delivery platforms, which was so not relevant to me at all because my entire experience...
There's nowhere you can't. Yeah, there's no DoorDashing.
My entire experience of being in restaurants, certainly as an owner, but, the couple of restaurants I worked at before we opened Cantina, I was just a cook, not paying attention to any sort of business model things. A ticket came in, we cooked the food, we put it in a box, or we didn't, and then, see you later.
Right.
But it was fascinating reading about like how fucked up these delivery platforms are and how they've just taken advantage, and so many businesses had to hop on because it was that or become irrelevant.
Right.
And even though oftentimes businesses were taking a hit or like a loss in some of these things because of the 20 to 30%, that you're chewing into, restaurants by default are only operating with a 5 to 10% if you're really, really good at what you do.
If you're really, really lean.
So 30% you're losing money on everyone. But what this guy was saying was businesses kept doing it hoping, okay, at least we'll stay relevant so that when this ends in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks,
2 years later,
3 years,
2 years later,
2 years later, that they'll still have that craving for our food and for, our business model, and they'll start coming back.
And he hit the nail right on the head, because that's what we kept hoping. I'm paying my cook, and I'm the only one working, but we still have to pay rent and the food cost. And I'm like, wow, and they take 30% when my margins are already that thin. But we just kept hoping, let's just keep going. It's better to be doing something than nothing, just to stay relevant and get the bar working somehow.
Totally. And those, another reason so many people jump to that is even if you're not making money, like there are still bills that continue to pile up even when you're closed. Your rent, your insurance, your this, your that.
So the hope that you're actually making some money to take care of some of the fixed costs.
Just cover some of those fixed costs, and maybe you're not going to take a paycheck, but at least you can keep that person working and maybe get them paid so that they're being retained so that you can, if the sun comes out, be there.
Right.
But it's got to be a really, gut-wrenching thing, and part of me wants to.
Very stressful, right?
I saw a whole campaign actually that Domino's did, where Domino's was giving out gift cards for local restaurants around whatever chain or whatever franchise that Domino's was, and their whole commercial campaign was third-party deliveries are hurting local businesses. We know you're not going to have Domino's 5 days, 7 days a week. So when you don't order from Domino's, which is a direct order platform, we would prefer you order directly. So they were giving out gift cards to local businesses because you can't use a Cantina gift card on Grubhub.
Right.
Or you can't use a Methuselah gift card on Grubhub. You would have to use a Grubhub gift card on there. So you would have to order directly, whether that's via the phone.
Right.
Which is another problematic thing. Do you have people to answer the phones? Back to Cantina right now, I'm just like, we're not answering the phone.
Right.
You can email me.
I know, but I only have one phone, which is my cell phone.
Oh man, that's brutal.
I don't know why I did that, but that's just the way. Because back then there was nobody at the bar answering the phone, so I'm like, I'll just change it to my cell phone. So if anybody calls, I can answer that and respond directly. So I need to change that.
Yeah.
But half the time we're just so, if they want to order, we're just so busy. Luckily, gratefully busy that we just haven't even been answering phones. So there's got to be a better way to do things. But now we're just we're just gratefully busy and just working our butts off to just try to keep it going.
Glad to hear it. So I know you took yet another pivot, but I'm over the word pivot, so we'll say it. And started hopping into local government. Where did that come from?
Oh, God, I don't know. It was just, I have to say, I didn't really know what that entailed. I just thought I loved the city. So, and my mentor is John Corll. So he kind of thought it'd be great to have somebody who's a business owner with my background in finance, that I could really make some changes or try to come up with new innovative ideas for the city. So I'm like, yeah, I'm game. I want to try something. But I think part of it is also you feel important, right? there's a lot of ego involved in a way.
Why do you think I started this podcast?
Right? I think we all have a level of narcissism, right? So when he approached me and said that he thought I'd be great for city government, and you kind of feel like, oh, I'd be a city leader, it's kind of sounds nice, right? I mean, some of it is really silly. Some of it I really thought I can go in there and help with look at the budget. I'm very used to looking at numbers. I have a degree in accounting. I was in finance. I kind of scoured through S&P 500 companies, large companies, balance sheets and stuff. So I thought I could really help. And I love the city, so I thought, like, oh, maybe I could help the small businesses. North Street could definitely use more. Yeah. And then I went around and I talked to a lot of people, and then I see our demographics. We have a lot of very very poor segment of the population that are very vulnerable. So I'm like, okay, what can I do? Can I go in there and help as much as I could? But I think for the most part I tried, but I think I felt very like a fish out of water. So I went there and I voted on things that felt right to me. But in order to effect change, I think it takes a lot longer than one term. And then I kind of feel like, I'm a bit of an outsider, and there's definitely some forces in Pittsfield. I don't know if it's true or not, but I feel like they really wanted me out, and they got me out.
The Pittsfield Illuminati took you out.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow. And some
Can we
of
get the Pittsfield Illuminati on this show next week, Rafa? Got that down.
And whoever the powers are, there's people name names or whatever, who not the bad boys, I'm sorry, the good old boys network or something like that. I call them the bad old boys network. But I get it. People in power want to stay in power, and they think there's only one piece of the pie, and God forbid I take a small piece that they're left without. So I really feel like they really didn't want me in there, and I felt some of it was vicious, maybe rightfully so or not. Maybe I didn't do things perfectly, but some of it felt very vicious. And but I will say it was a great experience. Like doing something that scares you, that puts you out of your comfort zone, I feel like you always learn something. So I am definitely a risk taker. Definitely haven't done a lot of stuff.
We can tell.
Cautiously, as I should, as maybe I should. But I kind of feel like, why not? I'm not afraid of failure, because I feel like you learn so much in the process. Mm-hmm. So I tried it, and then I learned how hard it is to make movements in government, because there's so many rules, and in order to effect one small change, there's a vast number of things that needs to get done, protocol, rules, stuff. So
bylaws and everything else,
right.
And with once a month meetings on Zoom that are limited to 60 minutes, not a lot gets done, and
right. And I'm, from my opinion, and I could be wrong, but I just felt that some of them, they just talked for the sake of talking and not necessarily getting things done. That is how it felt. But meanwhile, being on boards like Jacob's Pillow, the board there, everybody is there for the benefit of the pillow. There aren't a lot of egos that I can tell. Everybody comes together. It's a pretty large board. It's like, what can we do to make the organization even better? Mm-hmm. And it was just such an enlightening, invigorating place to be. And I thought government, I don't know why I thought it'd be like that, but I thought, like, let's get together, let's make things better, what can we do? And that wasn't the experience. But
I'm curious, like, did you have an exit interview or something? I'm just curious to know if the government has a way of receiving feedback on, like, how things worked, and even if you're not in a position of power anymore, what are the channels that you can still try and fill with positive things that the people are saying? And as business owners, we speak to a lot of people. We are kind of
right.
ambassadors of our communities.
So there was no exit interview, but I think it feels like if I wanted to do something, I'd have to reach out to them to figure out where I could best be of service. But I think I just got really burnt out from COVID, from the re-election. Losing really sucked big time. I am glad, looking at it now, I'm glad I'm not in it, because I just love concentrating my time on the business, my daughters, and myself and my friends and family. So that's been great to be able to do that. But
you're like, oh my God, I couldn't be normal and relatively normal.
And then being under the microscope was hard. I thought I could handle it, but now that I'm not in it, I'm not under as much scrutiny as before, so it's a lot. I could breathe a little bit better, which I think it's been nice to be able to just. And plus now I'm working 6 nights a week, so all I do is just get up, take care of my daughters if I can, take care of myself. I worked out today. I'm like, yes, and then just go to the bar and just make sure we put out good product.
So. You mentioned you're working 6 days a week, and also that you have a background in accounting and good with numbers and whatnot. I've always felt incredibly lucky that I have such a great partner in Emily.
That's awesome.
To run the business with. And so often she gets written off by customers in the community as, oh, you're Josh's wife. Oh, yeah, I know you. You're Josh owns Cantina and you're his wife.
Yeah, but she's behind the scenes. People don't realize how much work it takes behind the scenes.
She's like the iceberg. You know, I'm the top of the iceberg, or at least I used to be.
Right,
like
you're the
behind
little
the
peak
line
that peeks
cooking,
out, that's visible.
Like, oh, thank you so much. Yeah, welcome to my restaurant.
But she's
Meanwhile,
the foundation.
She is carrying the load, and we would be nothing without all of her efforts. So do you have anybody else working with you, or are you pulling this thing across the finish line day in and day out?
and I just realized today that doesn't look pretty some days.
You look great today.
Thank you. But I'm like, oh wow, I forgot to do payroll last week because the app wasn't working. I only have like this big of a window to do payroll, and it wasn't working. I'm like, oh, I'll just do it next week. And then my staff's like, are you ever gonna run payroll? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing that right now. And then there's people that, people have been calling me left and right, luckily, because they want to do events and things. And I just feel like I think I'm a little overwhelmed and tired, so I need to just rest a little bit.
But go into it and like tell me a little bit about what that is like. I mean, I feel overwhelmed. Or certainly felt overwhelmed in the first 6 years.
The paperwork,
yeah, being like, okay, like I'm the chef, and that's my primary job. But it's more than just a chef. It's leading a group. It's being the manager. It's keeping up on the bills and all the rest. And then that's not even touching.
But I think the hardest part also now that I'm cooking is making sure we have everything, like ordering everything to the point that we have everything set up so we can make the food to put out. One day I forgot to order something. I'm like, oh, we're out of rice. Sorry, we can't have this dish. That's our big seller because I forgot to order. And so I feel like it's a perfect domino that if one thing is out of line, everything will fall down, I think, right?
You're one like domino away from
or it's a house of cards or whatever they call it. But I think people don't realize how much work it takes behind the scenes to come out with a great product, especially in the kitchen, I realize. And then also and then running the bar, make sure we have liquor, we have wine, we have the staff, we have enough staff. Sometimes we get overwhelmed with people that come in all at once. I'm like, maybe I should get reservations. Yeah. So there's a lot, as you know, there's a lot that goes into making one tiny little business successful. And I think this is why it's so hard for businesses to survive. Like I think 99% fail within 5 years. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I made it to year 7.
Nice. Still here.
I'm still standing.
I am part of the 1%.
Damn straight. So I feel proud that I'm like, okay, maybe it didn't look pretty. It's chewing gum and a lot of Band-Aids that were put together, but I'm still standing and I just love what I do, and it's a labor of love.
Do you I'm just fascinated because I can't imagine it. Like as I said, I'm overwhelmed as it is, and
Yeah,
at this point, my like
meals taxes to be
daily responsibility
filed,
is like pretty low.
paying
But
the bills. Yeah.
do you schedule your days out? Like, you know, one day
Oh,
is
no.
this one. It's just a nonstop running list.
Yes.
Like add it to the list.
Yes.
Hopefully get to it.
Yes, and then I realized I should write. Maybe I should write this stuff down. So I have a to-do list that grows every day.
Yeah, I have to-do lists for the to-do list of like do this to-do lists, you know, and subcategories.
And I
whatnot.
think maybe, you know, and I know people that are incredibly organized. So I learned that I'm not that kind of person, but I just kind of do things. I kind of do things, and then somehow it comes together. But I think I definitely need to be a little bit more organized. And I have 2 daughters too, so I try to manage. You know, they're riding horses, so I'm like, oh, shoot, do I have money for that show? Do I have money for that lesson? So just trying to figure out how do I know it's you know, if I put as a mother, I think that's like the one thing as a parent, you always feel guilty that you don't do enough for your kids. Mm-hmm. But then I realize like I'm doing the best I can, and I hope it's enough. I love them to death, mm-hmm. and they're alive, and here we are.
Rafa said to me the other day, we were trying to talk to a couple different groups about getting them on the podcast. I said, look, it's July. Like, everybody's busy right now. He said, do they have kids? And I said, no. He goes, then they're not busy.
so
Because, like, if you have kids, like,
it's a whole,
you're busy.
It's exponential.
Right?
Yeah.
But if you don't have kids, like, your to-do list is manageable. I don't care who you are.
I know, but you know, but when I didn't have kids, though, I thought my life was busy, and I'm like, oh my God, I just can't handle all this. But then you have kids, and you realize how much more you have.
Yeah.
And then you realize how easy you had it back then. But I think everybody has their own experience. So.
Well, back to the scheduling for a second. I don't know if it was an Instagram ad or something, but it was like a journal. It was like, help schedule your life. And I was like, I need to schedule my life. Like, I'm about to buy this journal at whatever the cost is.
I've bought a lot of journals myself.
But it showed this video about all of the most successful people do time slot working, where it's very oriented to 1 hour. You're scheduling your day, not just as I'm going to continue to work, because the list never ends.
Right.
You will never cross the last thing off the list.
Right.
And even if you did, it's only because you forgot to add the next 15 things to that list. And that's also stressful. I mean, that's what keeps me up at night of like, did I do enough today? Like, there's still those 8 things that I just put off, or
it's always
wakes you up in the morning.
Like triage, right? Every morning.
Exactly. Wakes you up in the morning and you're like, would I love to sit down and enjoy a cup of coffee with my wife? Yes. But instead, like, I got to get going. Like, there's only 18 more hours left in this day. I got to get going.
Right.
But I have been wanting to convert into this model of really blocking off my days and saying, like a normal job, when 5 o'clock comes, like, that's the end of the day. And if you didn't get it done, you didn't get it done. And it'll be there for the next day. But there's no need to stress between 5 o'clock and 9 o'clock when you come in the next day. So doing things such as from 10 to 11 is when I catch up on emails first thing in the morning. And from 9 to 10, I'm just sitting with Emily, enjoying the moment. But 10 o'clock is when work starts. And then 10 to 11, I'm doing that. And then 11 o'clock, it's like, cool, close the computer. And now it's time to go. And maybe if I'm lucky, like from 11 to 12 is when there's a little bit of fitness or something outside, a hike or whatever it is. Followed by noon is when I have to get right back to, now I'm doing events for an hour. I'm just focused on events for 1 hour. I'm locking in and then locking out.
Let me know how that works out.
Okay.
We'll do a follow-up and to see how that works out.
It sounds good. And although I haven't gotten it super tight as far as the schedule, I have bought into that concept that if you can't get everything done, limit yourself to the times where you want to be productive. And tell yourself it's okay to turn off, because it's the jumble that becomes overwhelming and the burnout of I didn't actually accomplish anything, even though you've been busting your ass all day long, all day long. So whether it's payroll, crossing it off the list doesn't feel like anything, but like finishing that chapter of an hour or whatever it is. Again, I haven't done the full schedule, but I have tried to start to be like, by the time I have to go pick up Jasper from camp, like work is done for the day.
Right.
Until 9, and then I
Right.
do my nightly email cleanup.
Right.
And that's
Wow,
fine.
you're busy. Yeah, it's a full life.
It is a full life. It is.
And I go back. Sometimes I go back like, oh, my 9-to-5 job was a lot easier. I was making a lot more money back then, although it wasn't really 9 to 5. But but the amount of work that he took and the amount of money you can make versus the amount of work we do today and the money that's not quite there yet.
Not quite there. What do you think Methuselah needs most to convert? Not that you're not making money right now, but to come out of the pandemic where people went into such holes, and even though from the consumer's point of view, it's like, oh yeah, they're fine, but little do they know that we've taken on an enormous amount of debt from the government through idle loans and other things that we didn't make that happen. It appeared, and now we have to go ahead and repay that, or customers, or this or that. But I'm curious to know, what are the things for your business that you think could help it take it to the next level in this post-pandemic world?
So luckily, I mean, we're doing. I tried different things. I added music to like our. Now we have music Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It looks like, and then Saturdays we have some dance parties. And Saturday I thought I'd be busy with the theater. We are lucky enough that Barrington Stage is right there, so we get a nice pre-theater crowd and then an after-theater crowd as well. And then with the music, all of a sudden, every night feels, I mean, knock on wood, every night feels great. So that took a little while to get going, and now that's working out really well. I think I need to sit down for me to look at the numbers closer. So that's one area that I feel like I have room to look at the numbers, make sure I'm actually making money now. With inflation, the costs have gone higher, and I haven't really increased the prices quite yet, to figure out what's the balance of increasing prices, but not too much that people don't come, because there's a flexibility, elasticity of price there. But luckily, so I have a new landlord, and he wants me to take over the space next door. We have that gallery space that's empty, and I've been trying to use that, try to figure out ways to have people in there to have events. So I'm hoping that in the next year or so, with the help of my new landlord, we could actually expand to the gallery at least, and maybe even take over the space next door that's been idle for a few years, so we can double our capacity. So I'm hoping to do that. But I think more than increasing.
But keep it as a gallery? Like, that would be cool, right? On
Keep it as
bigger
a gallery,
nights,
but
open
then,
it up.
Yeah, I would love to do like storytelling night. We actually had this author come through, and he's from Pittsfield, turned pilot, and he wrote this beautiful book. And he actually spent some time in Brazil, so it was interesting learning history of Brazil and Pittsfield, and the way and about self-growth and stuff. So I would love to have somebody like him come back and do a reading in the gallery, which is away from the bar, and also have some dance parties. I realize I love to dance.
Me too.
But then, not be in the bar space and have like a dedicated dance space. In the gallery space.
What's wrong with people dancing in the bar, on the bar?
Yeah. You make the front page of the news if you're. Although I will say, really a politician came to my Pride Night 1, and he was dancing on the bar with me. Although I guess now that COVID is okay, it's fine.
Will remain unnamed.
Who shall remain unnamed?
I've always felt like dancing on the bar is an acceptable thing.
I guess
it was.
Right. I guess it was, unless if you're running for re-election and they're looking for something. I always think that wasn't maybe the brightest. Like I said, self-sabotage. Who knows? Maybe I wanted to fail.
Well, I read an article, and they had a quote from you saying, "Next time I'll wear a mask." It wasn't the dancing on the bar thing; it was the mask.
It was the mask.
Next time I'll wear a mask, which I thought was a great way, because there's no shame, look, I get the
I'm glad you got the joke.
image. No, I get the image of you and your friends wanting to sit around after work and enjoy yourselves, and
it was my birthday, so it was a private party, which I thought was fine to have a private party, but they turned into this big circus, and I didn't realize how conservative some of the residents were. and or they just wanted a witch burning. I guess and I kind of understood that we were going through so much, and it was maybe nice for some people to have an outlet to blame somebody, so they could alleviate some of their fears and frustrations and blame me, the Asian, because COVID it comes from Asia. I don't know.
And is that through like Facebook or like community boards and just like the murmur of...
Yeah, it was mostly through Facebook, and then the Eagle gets a hold of it. They put it on the front page, and
Facebook needs to go. Like, I honestly...
I think Facebook is great.
Okay,
but I mean, for some things, it's like everything that's great. I think there's good and bad. There's polar opposites of everything. I mean, when I do advertising on Facebook for $5, I mean, all I need is an extra 20 people to come to the bar, and that's been really awesome and helpful. So you can advertise for really inexpensive and actually draw people in. But there's definitely those community boards that are the bullying. It can get vicious, and you just have to learn not to look. I don't know if you can, but they do say
read
that
between the lines.
Yeah. So there was a time that I just didn't look, and I realized, it just is what it is. Everything passes. I've been through several lifetimes, it feels like, to know that everything passes and people forget, and there's another thing that's gonna be the big news or whatever.
And most of the time, that stuff is not really real either.
Right. Yeah.
People post on social media in a way that they would never talk
right,
to
because
anybody.
they would never say those things to me in person. Yeah.
And
face
also,
to face.
some of the stuff that happened during COVID was kind of difficult to parse. There's a principle in regulations that's kind of a tricky one. Remember, you know how there's like some small towns who have speed limits that are really, really, really low?
Right.
I think sometime in the 80s or 90s, I could be butchering the data on this, but those kind of below acceptable speed limits were used as sort of a bait. So it was basically a way for
them to stop
adding
you.
Discretionary decision from a police standpoint, so they could pull someone over just because they felt like that person, maybe they were looking for that person, or they felt like that person
right,
was
because the
somebody
speed limit is 15 and you're going 17.
So then there you are in your situation with that
right.
whole thing.
Right, and a technicality, they can get me, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But again, silly, It's just really silly.
Yeah, it was just a bad time overall, and I think in hindsight I shouldn't have run for re-election, but I really thought I had more work, or I wanted to try to do more on my second term, because the first term was all via Zoom, and it was just a weird time to go through,
kids are complaining about having to do, senior year of high school on Zoom. Like, imagine having to start in local government on Zoom.
Yeah, so
you don't have the ability. People like you and me, we need a little bit of FaceTime to soften the blow up a little bit.
Right, just to have more, So,
hey, welcome. It's my birthday. Come on in.
I was thinking maybe we should drink more during the council meetings. Oh my God, people would be a lot more honest.
Let's convert
they
local
wouldn't have
government.
Such a big stick up their asses. Some of them.
Yeah, some of them.
Some of them are amazing.
That's funny.
So,
but I highly recommend it. You learn so much, like how the process is, and it depends on what you want to learn. But I think try something different that's totally out of your element is always a good thing, because you always learn something. You grow.
Yeah, well, I've been adding more of my time into the Great Barrington town government as I've been trying to assist with the workforce housing projects that are going on.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Was on the board meeting this morning for Construct, and
good, that's great.
It is so similar. It's totally in line with what you and I are trying to do of provide for our community. It's just in a different way, and we're lucky in our line of work that, sure, there are rules, like you can't dance on your bar with a mask on in the middle of COVID. Mask off in the middle of COVID.
It was the lack of social distancing.
And there are food regulations and this and that, but to a certain extent, like we're pretty fluid and can do what we want. We have an idea, and then it's just up to us. Can we go ahead and get that idea to the top of the hill and push it over? But being in local government and learning more about the different stages, it is so much more hoops that you have to jump through. But at the same time, these groups of people that I've been seeing on Zoom and in these, selectmen meetings and whatnot, like they all have the same ethos that we do as business owners of like, I'm willing to do the extra work.
That's great. Yeah.
Nobody's making a killing working in local government.
No, Pittsfield, you make a whopping $8,000 a year.
Yeah, whopping $8,000 a year. So like it's
like 40 hours worth of work.
It's not like they're just sitting there kicking back, like collecting on it. And so everyone is working hard. And I joined the Berkshire Grown committee for.
So no wonder you're so busy.
But the steering committee, and they brought like a whole group of people to try and dictate where should Berkshire Grown be, going towards, and just to see all these people come together and donate their time and try to continue to be innovative and creative and helpful to those in need, whether it's farmers or low income or workforce. The ethos are the same throughout.
But that's great. Sounds like the community is there to the mindset is to help each other.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
So I'm hoping, I think COVID we were there, I thought, in Pittsfield a little bit, but I think COVID kind of made things more became silos in a way because we were just trying so hard to survive. So I'm hoping that we can get back to that. Like, how can we help you? Like, we could all collaborate and help each other out. And what can we do together to make our industry better? Because I think it's helpful when we all come together to make the pie bigger. It's not about a zero-sum game where if I take it from you. I think there's a way that we can make it bigger so we all benefit. So it seems like you guys are there.
Well, within that thought process, I'm curious to know how you think Pittsfield is doing on its growth plan. Pittsfield has definitely been one of these towns that has been knocking on the door of opportunity for quite some time. There's obviously a lot happening, and yet still it feels like it's not yet. So I'm curious what your beat is on the pulse, both from your business expertise and also, your knowledge from being.
So unfortunately, North Street still has a ways to go, and I try not to. I see Mission's trying. I think they're making a comeback. It's sad to see some of the Lantern closing, and then Township 4. Like, our little block was so cute. We had the flower shop, we had the Lantern on the other corner, we had a bookstore that came through. But that bookstore, I think now he's in Great Barrington, I think. And now Ray left from the Lantern, and so it's going through changes. And I'm not sure. I'm hoping. I love the mayor, Linda. Our vision and our politics are very aligned. But sometimes I feel like maybe there's just not enough in her. Maybe she's got so much to do that sometimes the businesses on North Street, like the small business community, I don't find that it's very friendly yet. So I'm hoping that at some point we'll get to that point where the city will maybe I'm wrong, but this is just my own personal feeling that it'd be great if the city came together or found ways to help the small businesses thrive even more. I'm not sure exactly what that would entail, but in my re-election, I talked a lot about I forgot what it was called, but it's kind of looking at the existing businesses that are successful and how can we make them even more successful, as opposed to trying to get new businesses in the empty storefronts. Maybe we can start with the people that are already there. Like for myself, I thought, I make everything at home. Maybe is there any way that I could expand my Korean sauce onto Guidos or something? Like, how can we reach out to you to help you grow, kind of thing. So I don't know. I'm hoping it'll get there at some point. I think I feel like it has no choice at some point, because now we got a lot of second homeowners because of COVID, and the properties in Pittsfield were less expensive. So a lot of second homeowners or a lot of people from the cities have moved to Pittsfield.
So many people I know, even from Great Barrington, have moved to Pittsfield to buy their first homes. Right. They're like, we love it up here. It's fantastic.
It's beautiful.
We just need some more things.
Right.
What?
So I'm not sure why there hasn't been a focus yet. I know they're trying, but I feel like we could use a real dedicated force to really make an impact in bringing thriving businesses.
Small business development.
Yeah, even more. We have. I know we have a red carpet team for the bigger businesses, and I know they're trying for the smaller businesses, but I think it needs to be. But Mike Oakley or whoever's running the red carpet, he can't do everything. So it'd be nice to see that at some point. But I think change is coming because it can't help but grow because of the.
There are bird scooters in Pittsfield now. If that doesn't say change is coming, I don't know what does. I mean, scoot, let's go. Get me a Dottie's coffee and a breakfast burrito.
I know.
And
I was trying to use the scooter to come to here, but it doesn't go that far yet. Maybe we need a bird scooter program that's interchangeable between the towns. You can get one in Lenox, and then you can get one to Great Barrington.
That would be awesome.
Kind of like the city
know that,
bike,
Rafa?
like the city bikes in New York City. You can rent a bike here and drop it off there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw some out of I just saw some out of the movie theater the other day. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Is it? I don't actually know what it is though. Is it like an electric bike kind of thing?
It's an electric scooter, and you can rent it via an app, and it's like, God forbid you use it at the wrong place. They can get via satellite. They can shut it off.
Oh wow!
So it kind of keeps you in line, cool. Sort of.
I think Bird is now owned by Uber.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Oh. So if you're a Uber user, which
because there's so many
of us are when we leave Berkshire County, but not here. You can get points and whatnot, but they're really big in a lot of cities. I mean, I think Pittsfield only has something like 200 of them, but you
Uber? The Bird.
Of the birds,
yeah,
of the scooters. But when I go to DC or Detroit, like there's just scooters all over the place, like on every corner, and it's great because instead of taking a taxi or something, you just go on the app. It shows you where the scooters are. So you can just go ahead and walk to it. Maybe one person walks 1 block this way, you walk 1 block this way, and you meet back up and scoot off to the races. And it's been my favorite way to like commute around cities when I'm traveling.
And they just sort of sit idle.
Yeah.
They don't get locked in a kind of like a bike thing.
Because they have access to every single scooter, so they can turn it on and off, and it's based on your app.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's amazing. It's like remote.
Yeah, I was going to make a comment about how I wish that was, that sounds pretty cool, but that's it's a big company that does that. Right?
Yeah.
I was going to make a comment that maybe it would be kind of cool if it was a local business, but I don't think that sounds a little bit too advanced. It would take a lot of investment in technology.
Maybe not though. It's like with the phone now, with an app, and you can
with APIs, you could probably tag off of something. Actually, that's a great question. Where was it? I wonder if it was in that book or if it was something else. But Rafa and I were discussing whether it would be a wise decision for us to go ahead and start a rideshare program that was local based.
I actually had I had a friend. He thought, he called it something really funny. It was like a funny name that he came up with it, but it's like if you a rideshare, meaning like you can call your friends to get a lift home if you just can't drive home. Mm-hmm. I think it was related to a Dewey. Something.
It was, our idea was more like on the Uber side of things.
Okay, yeah.
But doing it locally without the mission of the company was not going to be to take advantage of drivers and to manipulate them and to do this and to do that and collect data on people's cell phones. Mm-hmm. Did you watch that TV show on HBO about the rise of Uber? No. It was super interesting.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was a dramatized, version of like Uber coming up. But I don't know if it was that show or if it was the book that I read, but one thing discussed that like Uber changed, especially in cities, like in New York, or no, less so cities, but other places, really changed the way people were allowed to eat out because they always had a ride home. And there was a huge upswing of births of children after Uber came to certain locations because all of a sudden people were like, oh, we can go out to dinner and we can get fucked up. Like,
Right.
we can comfortably have cocktails and then that thing, and like we're not gonna have that awkward moment at the end of the dinner
Right.
where like I'm driving.
Oh my God,
Yuki's been boozing the whole
Yeah.
time, and now Yuki's like, hey, like that's and sure enough, like the data has shown that Uber has been amazing
That's
for
great data
restaurants
right
and
there.
bars.
Wow,
Like it's
yeah.
really allowed them to comfortably
Yeah.
sell extra, where cities like
So
New
we're
York.
we're gonna see a birth.
Oh, it was
boom.
L.A. I still don't know what the concept was, but it was L.A. that once Uber came to L.A., they were
Birth
able to
rate.
see that upswing because
Wow.
New York you can always hop a subway or
Right,
take a
we
train.
always
but,
could have, yeah.
But when you're in
We always
L.A.,
had
like
cabs,
you don't
yeah.
have that
Yeah.
availability, and once you did. It wasn't about driving 20 minutes or 4 hours, even though it's only 20 minutes away in LA because the traffic is horrible.
Yeah.
You could go, feel good. You can have that extra glass of wine. You can have that extra drink after dinner. You can go to a bar afterwards and still feel like I'm going to get
right.
home
and then,
okay.
Yeah, and then your inhibitions are super lowered, and then you're like, hey, how you doing?
So these LA businesses are like, screw you, New York restaurants. You guys have it easy. Like you guys can
Right.
sell as much alcohol as you
Yeah.
want, and like not even have to consider if somebody's stumbling out of your joint
Right,
because they can
right.
ride a subway or they
Right.
can hail a cab on any
Right.
corner.
Right.
ever.
And most New Yorkers who live there, they don't have a car, so they.
I notice it all the time. It's a two-way street. It happens more often at Mooncloud that we're like, hey, I think that's enough, like, thank you so much.
Yes,
We
I
look
know.
forward to serving you again. And at Cantina, it's more, I actually see it more from the customer side of, hey, can I get you anything else to drink? They're like, no, I have to drive home. Definitely because the Monterey cops sit all
Yes,
along Route
they
57.
do.
And
So,
for those that are leaving Cantina, please know there will be police officers out there.
Yes.
The speed limit changes. It goes 35, 25, 40, 30. It just like varies and they just look for the speed traps.
Right.
But like you mentioned, what can we do for the small businesses that already exist to help make it easier for them, to help facilitate
Right.
better businesses
Right,
for them?
but-
Because with inflation and everything else, like our business is so tight. Like we need to
Right.
find room to be able to expand that a little bit. And I wonder if doing a non-profit ride share of sorts, that the mission of the
Amazing.
entire thing was not to make money, but instead to allow others to make money so that you
Right.
can get on a
Right.
booze
share.
cruise is a bad way of saying it, but like you could do a
Booze cruiser.
do a pub crawl around the Berkshires where that like starts with cocktails at Methuselah at 5
Yeah.
o'clock and then takes you into Lenox and you stop somewhere else and then you come down and you have dinner at Cantina,
Oh my
followed by
God,
drinks
that'd be
here, followed by
amazing.
finishing
Oh my
at Mooncloud, only to know that you still have a ride home.
Right.
Because so often
Right.
we got friends, up in North Adams, they're like, oh, we'd love to come down to Cantina, but like we can't really enjoy ourselves because we have to drive an hour home.
Right,
And
right.
what if there was a company that we kind of developed that was either
Right.
funded by the businesses that like you
Mm-hmm.
got discounts if you were getting picked up or dropped off at certain
Right,
businesses
right.
that put money, maybe it could also be fueled by restaurant workers
Right.
to go ahead and get extra money in their pockets and off hours.
Right. Right.
Something like that would be
Something-
really cool to just help, or maybe it's a shuttle. Maybe we just go ahead and partner up with like a short bus company and be like, hey, would you be cool doing shuttles on Fridays and Saturdays between these 8 locations?
Right,
And there's
so
3
they can-
buses that just lap
right.
around because
That'd be great.
you're
I
trying to
love that.
create like an atmosphere for fun
Right.
and to let loose and to enjoy yourself. I'm trying to do that, and so many others are. And oftentimes you're just limited in what you can do because of the
Right.
driving. And good for all of us for
Right.
making that a priority.
Right.
But what can we do to
Right.
open it up a little bit?
Right. I like that. I really like that
All
out
right,
of the
let's,
box thinking.
Yeah, some people would say is that the limitation of creating a business that doesn't have profit in its mind in the beginning is that it has a smaller likelihood of expansion later on because you become dependent on things that are outside of your control. You won't be getting as much money coming in. Therefore, if this were to become something that would expand, say, to North Adams and to maybe Hudson Valley and other places, it would demand capital. And if the business is not going to turn a profit at any point, it will have a harder time getting investors in. But I think it would also be a great way of sort of just putting your finger on the scale a little bit and sort of like moving the needle a little bit so that you have a business that supports the local. It's a completely 100% local business that's run in the Berkshires, that drivers live here, and that people that would be using the service would also be living here, and I think even if it doesn't have the potential of growing more later on, it still will create much more good.
Right.
Then we'll have limitations.
Right.
Should we do a beta test?
Yes, I was just gonna say that. Let's try that out.
A Mooncloud Methuselah Connect.
Yes, I would love that.
Like there are certain nights, Saturday nights, where we have shuttles running between Methuselah and Mooncloud.
Yeah, that'd be
Still
amazing.
doesn't get anybody home, but at least it gets them back to Pittsfield, which is kind of...
But we have a lot of, luckily where we are, we have a lot of customers who live nearby because they can walk.
Oh,
And Mooncloud, I'm sure you do too,
We
right?
do,
Because
definitely.
so let's try beta tests with the locals who are walking distance from the location, and then we could figure out the rest.
I actually
Like
just
the first
learned.
step, not
All right,
the whole
welcome
staircase.
to your ride. Can I see your driver's license,
what are we-
registration,
what are
and
we-
address, please?
What are we going to call it? The meth cloud? Get on the meth cloud bus. Maybe
awesome.
that'd be a new bar, I think.
So, tell our listeners what days you're open, what your hours are. I have, only recently been able to bridge out of my little world, and in the couple of times Emily and I have come to North Adams, it's been while you guys are closed.
So we are open Monday through Saturday from 5 to midnight, and the kitchen is usually open till 10, sometimes 10:30 if you want to come eat later. There's an after theater crowd, so if you get there at 10 and I'm still there, I'll be happy to make you a meal. But I will say, though, that Saratoga Racetrack is open, so I'm the only one cooking. I might have to close a few nights, so call first. So call first. Love going to the racetrack.
Awesome. Well, Yuki, thanks so much for coming on and chatting with us.
Oh, my God. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Sharing your story.
It's great to catch up.
Yeah, I know. It's nice to see you.
It's great to
Oftentimes,
see
it's just
you.
like, hey, welcome. I gotta go cooking. See you later. Bye.
I know.
Take care now. Bye then.
And we'll look out for the meth cloud.
Yeah, we'll follow up about the meth cloud.
I love that.
The moving train to take you to all the fun places.
And I love the throwdown that you had. It was actually, and I love doing that once in a while. Like, why don't we shut down our doors? I didn't mind doing. I love doing that, so we get a chance to all get together.
Yeah.
At a great location with great drinks and food. So.
Yeah, we should do it more often.
And I remember Mission and I, we used to rent a bus to do that.
Oh wow!
To go
down to
the Dreamway.
Yeah.
Wow,
We all
that's
hopped
awesome.
on the bus, and so it was a great way for us because we all lived in the area, so it was a great way for us to just drink on the way there, drink there, and drink all the way back.
Yeah. Enjoy the night
And there were
do
no
it safely.
babies harmed though, or created. I don't think.
Or bus drivers. Well, thanks, Yuki.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it.
Cheers. Thank you.
We'll definitely be coming up. Rafa, we should start doing date night together and going and visiting some of
And
the
try
people
some
we
of
chat
the
with.
beautiful wines you sent us our way.
That would be
Yeah, the
fantastic.
Dolphin and the
Date night would
Barolo.
be great. You wanna take me out on a date?
I'd love to take you out on a date.
Take me out on a date. You just have to convince my wife.
I was going to say I'll text your wife.
There's gonna be a little bit of work there, but yeah, let's do it.
Sounds great.
Thank you, everybody, for
Thank you so
tuning
much.
in.
Great to see you.
Thank you, and thank you all for tuning in. And we will see you next time. Rafa's off to Europe for a week or so.
Just for a week.
Where are you going?
I'm going to Spain for a week too.
Oh, where? Barcelona?
I'm going to San Rafael, so a
Nice.
small town about
Oh,
an hour away. My wife's family has
Sounds
she has
amazing.
family that lives
she
there,
does?
so we're
Okay.
basically
wonderful.
yeah. It's the only way that we get to. She's spending a whole month there, so it's the only way that we get to actually. She gets to work and have somebody watching the kids. That isn't me.
Yeah, that's
So,
great. Oh,
it's
sounds
pretty nice.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Yeah, and then I'll be back the following week again. You guys can follow us at Bunch Podcast on Instagram, and we're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. And we'll see you guys next time.
Cheers.
Cheers, cheers. Peace, peace.